Hello. Happy Wednesday, October 29th. Let's see. All right. So already, and we know Uranus is going into Taurus soon. Uranus is retrograde at 0 degrees of Gemini, but because it's retrograde, it's going backwards, so to say. So it's going back into Taurus retrograde. Just Uranus is the disruptor. The reason why I'm highlighting this is because I drove to my son's parent teacher conference today, and on the way there were some peaceful protesters. Um, and the only sign that I really could see with a lot of clarity was basically we're sick of thrones, which I take as we're sick of these caste systems, these arbitrary hierarchical systems, this feeling that like our power is outside of us, this subservience, when really the world is waking up to understanding what sovereignty means, that our power comes from within us, right? So anyways, first card we're going to pull is going to be one of my business cards, which of course has the 7 chakras on the back. So let me just shuffle these around. Hope everybody had a great heart-centered Tuesday. Do want to say that in general, Wednesday is ruled by Mercury. So that makes sense that we're also seeing this like fast-moving communication, people taking action, people getting together as a community, talk about the way that we want things to be. So I feel like in the past, there was a lot of like, don't do this, don't eat this is bad, blah, blah, blah. And now I feel like it's changing more to like, this is the vision, this is the world we're creating, this is what we want to see. You know what I mean? So it's like saying the same exact thing, but saying it from luster instead of lack. So it's like lack would be like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. And luster's like, well, I don't have this right now, but I'm working on it and I have all of these things. So how can I use my resources, my intuition, my skills to create something, with my mind, body, and spirit that I want to see in the physical. And let's see. All right, we're just going to cut it in the middle. And actually, I just want to do a little bit more. This is my third pack of cards. The last one that I had the rounded edges. And I was like, we're going to go for the more, I don't know, square. All right, I don't want to see which card it is because I want to show you guys first. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to close my eyes and hopefully you guys can see it. And la da da. Of course, it's all about expression. So, expression. So Gemini is all about communications, ruled by Mercury, the mind, ideas. And the thing that I always like to talk about, and also the throat chakra is chakra number 5, right? So 5 can be interpreted as inspired change. And one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to expression is sometimes the best thing you can say is nothing, but other times you have this like, it almost feels like your throat is like stretching. Like, have you ever had a conversation where you really wanted to speak up and you didn't, and then you felt your throat kind of like trying to get bigger? I don't know how to explain it. Like once you feel it, it's like you start paying attention to it more, because I do feel like some of us don't speak when we have the right time for whatever reason, because maybe we've just kind of gotten used to people pleasing, to not taking up space, whatever. But then there's also times where it's like it can be all the way the opposite and we get triggered and then we like speak and then we're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that. So it's like finding this happy balance, this happy medium of listening and speaking. And sometimes, your best friend calls you, she had a really bad day. She just wants you to hold space for her, right? All right, let's see. I'm gonna just dig into my basket here and pull out the next deck that I want to use. Actually, it just came to me in my mind's eye, so I'm not going to make it a surprise. I'm just going to pull the one that I saw. And pay no attention to the name because I don't, whatever people want to think a starseed is, I'm really not big on labels. Labels are fine when they help us get to somewhere. So labels are a bridge. Um, and when they start becoming a crutch, or when they start enabling bifurcation, and they're not as helpful, right? So an example of a crutch would be like, oh, I can't do A, B, C, D, E, F, G because of this particular label. When So take, for example, and this isn't meant to minimize anything, and everything I say is always from my perspective. And if it resonates, that's great. And if it doesn't, you don't have to give it another thought. But say, for example, someone with something like a diagnosis of ADHD. ADHD is the bridge that you're being asked to cross to get to the other side. So when you start saying, oh, I can't do A, B, C, D, E, F, G because I have ADHD, and maybe that's going to happen for a time, right? But a bridge is meant to be walked across. It's not meant to be standing in the middle of it for the rest of your life. And of course, we all just do the best that we can. But the ADHD is just a symptom of your body, mind, spirit trying to communicate something to you, right? So it's like when you break your leg, which I understand isn't exactly the same, but I do feel like the world is starting to understand that the physical and the mental both count. So a physical disease for a long time has been more real than a mental disorder or whatever you want to call it, because people can't, they can't prove your mental disorder. And yes, I know they have like the diagnostic criterion and stuff like that, but you can't see a mental disorder. Whereas like you could see someone with a broken leg. Someone with a broken leg isn't meant to use those crutches forever. Those crutches are the structure that's getting them to the other side. They're assisting the person into returning back to balance. So the body always wants to be in homeostasis. The body always wants to be in balance. And that's when these labels and bridges come in, like ADHD. So what is the ADHD diagnosis telling me? It's telling me that my mind can't focus because it has too many thoughts coming in. And of course, there's a lot of different reasons for it, but there's a lot of thoughts that can be thunk that are not ours. And that's why it's so important to do energetic hygiene. Um, and energetic hygiene, some people think that sounds really woo woo, and that's fine. That's just kind of the way that I express myself, but you can say the same thing in a bunch of different ways. So, energetic hygiene could even just be like when you get home from work, you take a shower to wash off all of that stress from the day, wash off whatever stuff you've touched or surfaces that you've sat down. So, that's like the physical hygiene, right? Energetic hygiene is just the same, but in a more nuanced level. So energetic hygiene could look like not having time to take a bath in between going from maybe job A to job B, but you intentionally wipe off your shoulders and your face and your hair and your knees. Um, One of my favorite energy hygiene things to do is to cleanse and clear my body with white light from the divine, and then connect to the core of the earth with my root center, and have these dynamic plays of energy from the divine source, God, all it is, down into the earth and grounding and back and forward. Some people who really aren't into the woo might go outside and sit near a tree every day for lunch to have complete silence so that they can clear their mind. That's grounding, right? Um, What else was I going to say? There was something else. Oh, yes. So taking up space, something that is really helpful that I'm trying to figure out another way to explain it for people who are more tangible, if that makes sense. Like I'm a very energy type person. So most of everything that I do is the mind and the emotions, you know, a little bit of action, a little bit less of tangible physical things. So that means like when I get sick with some type of a physical ailment, in general, I will look to my emotions and my mind before I will even consider um, like a physical tablet or something outside of myself. And that we can talk about on another day. But basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's this practice that you can do every morning where you sit with yourself and you just envision like a little spark inside the core of your belly. And it can be whatever color, whatever texture, whatever shape, whatever comes to you, because your imagination, when you do these visualizations, painting a picture exactly the way it comes to you and just allowing it and not pushing it away is so powerful. And then you let this little spark of color or this poofy cotton candy cloud or whatever it is, maybe it's a bunch of bubbles, and it expands And then you let it kind of fill your whole physical body, and then you let it fill your whole auric body, and then you make like this force field around your body. And you can say affirmations like, my energy is my energy. I fill my energy with my own energy. I walk through my day and I manage my energy with boundaries in a way that I feel safe to take up space, but I don't operate from lack. So, like a lot of empaths have a really hard time not kind of like abandoning themselves to help other people because sometimes empaths feel responsible for other people's pain. And I know that that sounds just so wild. And a lot of times, highly sensitive empathic people don't even realize that they're doing it. So these energy exercises, even though they seem so simple and perhaps silly, but they actually really work. Consistency matters as well, like doing something every single day and something like those simple energetic mantras where you cleanse and clear your physical body with your mind energy, and then you clear your auric space with your mind energy and your visualization, and then building this like orb of energy around you so that not only can you take up space, but so that like these emotions that aren't yours just bounce right off of your big bubble and you stay contained in your bubble space. Stuff like that. So let's see what the next card is. Fun tangent time with Brookie. Um, so I feel like today, really fast moving energy, and perhaps even something that you've been working on for like years. You're going to see something, something come in. Maybe it was something that you really wanted to do and you were starting to give up on. You're waiting for an email or some type of a correspondence from someone, or even a package. You didn't think you were ever going to get it, or it got lost in the mail, or maybe you disputed something on your credit card and they said no, and then just randomly you're going to go to the mailbox today and you're going to get a letter from the bank that says, "Just kidding, we approved this, and you're going to get your money back." Something like this. You know what I mean? It's like I'm hearing like return to self, right? Because everything, from my perspective at this point in time, comes from within, right? What we paint from within, we can see outside of ourselves. Of course, again, I'm going to say this is if you're a planet and not a dwarf planet. And what I mean by that is, are you working on your shadow self? Are you working on the things about yourself that you don't like? And by working on it, it usually means, for most of us, most of the people that I've worked with, especially, accepting yourself wholly and fully, realizing you're perfect just as you are. And then it's like it magically just like my friend always says, the trash takes itself out, right? But it's like return to self, return to self, return to self. Stop giving from a space of lack. Stop abandoning yourself to rescue others. Know that the world that you're creating on the outside starts on the inside. Nervous system regulation, waking up in the morning, allowing yourself to just breathe, maybe spending 1, 2, or 3 minutes still laying in your bed, saying things that you're grateful for. Maybe you work up from your toes to the top of your head and you just pay your body gratitude. Thank you, toes. Thank you, feet, for, helping me walk places and run. Thank you, legs, for being healthy and strong and helping me, run that marathon on Saturday. Thank you, brain, for my wonderful ideas. Like just spending a few moments in gratitude, really feeling into your physical body, maybe even some light stretching, yoga poses, if you do the tapping, just like something that you do that's just for yourself that kind of like turns all that chatter into this white noise, like this silent place of existing, this silent place of relaxation, this silent place of just being. And then when you start your day off like that, with that calm and that center, then throughout the rest of the day, you can always just go back to that moment and remember how it feels. And boom, again, the trash takes itself out. And once you're just very diligent with this process and you really get to know yourself, thoughts that try to come in that you're like, oh, that's not mine. That's not mine. That's not mine. And it usually, when it's a thought that's not yours, it's usually maybe like a collective thought, like, this is what's always been done. You should do this. Or even like a perceived judgment of others. those things, when you know that they aren't really you, you can just picture yourself doing this. Stay out of my orbit. This is my orbit. I control the gravitation. I control what comes in and what stays out. I think my own thoughts. It's safe to feel my feelings and let them wash over me and know that they are just messengers. They're just telling you information. And sometimes they're actually, if we're pushing them away and not dealing with them, then they get stuck and then they go to pieces and places in our physical body, cause stagnancy, which can manifest as pain and, of course, dis-ease. How they say it now, right? Okay. So the second card. I don't know if it's upside down or right side up. I hope you guys can see it because I know that light sometimes makes it hard to see. So return to self. What does this guy say? Oh, it says, oh, that's lovely. So again, this is upside down, which whatever you think that that means for you is what it means for you. But also, okay, right when I look at this, it feels like this is like you're sitting in an airplane and you're staring out the window. And then maybe you're kind of going inside of your mind and this is like a different vision. But it says, you're not for everyone. Embrace your weirdness, face your true north. So this is it too. It's like people pleasing is over, guys. We're not doing that. We're doing what's best for ourselves. And you know, the word selfish has like a whole lot of things going on with it. I could talk about it for a lot longer than I probably anyone wants to listen today, but it's not like that. It's like if you take care of yourself first and foremost, if you haven't been doing it for a while, it could look a little messy on the outside at first as the energy is reassimilating, but you're going to start noticing that the people, places, and spaces that you end up encountering are going to match your energy. They're going to be balancing to you instead of feeling like a tether with an anchor on your solar plexus, like heavy, right? Um, because when you're people pleasing, you're doing that external thing. You're looking for external validation, external approval, and that means that you're not really being who you are. And I feel like right now there is a really potent transformation for a lot of people where if it's a breakup, if it's the loss of a job, if it's the end of a friend structure, or um, you know, just some type of a group dynamic that doesn't feel like it's in the same frequency, like you felt a frequency shift. If we've ever been on this other side of it, like the person who's broken up with, the person who's gotten fired, the person who, you know, kind of like gets their feelings hurt or something like this, that makes sense. But what we all have to remember is that we all came here for a specific purpose that we can only do by being exactly who we are. And so when people, places, and spaces no longer match our frequency, that doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean that, we still don't have love in our heart for those people, places, or spaces. And it goes the other way too, because it's like sometimes if you get fired from a job or someone breaks up with you and it seems unexpected or whatever, maybe it's just a realignment. And you're not for everyone. And that's okay, because if you're trying to be for everyone and you're people pleasing, then you're abandoning yourself over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like that thing that I talked about with your orbit. If you're not being yourself, if you're not being true to yourself, then you're going to get a lot of garbage in your orbit that isn't yours. And sometimes, especially if you're empathic and highly sensitive, you're going to start getting confused and you're not going to know the difference between where your energy ends and other people's begin, right? And it is hard. It's so hard when you first start doing it because people might be expecting the old version of you. You've changed. You don't do the same things that you used to do. But if you keep proceeding this way, at least from my experience with the people pleasing and constantly abandoning yourself for the perceived needs of others, right? You're going to start to feel empty inside. And I feel like that could very well be what depression kind of could stem from, is just abandoning yourself and not really knowing yourself. And knowing yourself is just such a beautiful, wonderful, marvelous thing. And then when you are truly, uniquely, authentically yourself, guess what? The people who are meant for you will magnetize to you. Things will start popping up all over the place. And then you'll be like, oh, which one do I want to do? You know what I mean? So, and the fact that this was upside down could either mean you know that you're on this precipice of change and you just needed a reminder, or maybe it's an activation and maybe you didn't realize, I used to really like, I'm trying to think of what I could say. I used to really like drinking coffee, but I realized that I don't like the way that it makes me feel. And then one day you just forget to have coffee, and then the next day you forget to have coffee, and then the next day you forget to have coffee, and then you go on a coffee date with your friend that you haven't seen in 3 months, and you always go to the same coffee place, and you get there and you're like, I'm going to have the hibiscus tea. All right, let's pull a love card. All right, this is what I call my love deck. This card deck I ordered from Etsy, and I think it was sometime in 2020. And I kept checking in on it because I was like, is it still coming? But because of just everything going on, they were like, oh, yeah, it's going to take a while, but just let us know. We'll refund your money. The Last Unicorn is my favorite movie. Peter S. Beagle is one of my favorite authors. And if you haven't read The Last Unicorn or watched the movie and you're into that kind of stuff, go for it. And then another one that I really, 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 really like a lot is the very first book he ever read or wrote, and it's A Fine and Private Place. I don't want to say too much about it, but look into it if it piques your interest, because it might be for you. All right, I'm just going to pull this guy in the middle, show you guys first. Hopefully you can see it okay. And let's see what it says. 5 of Coins. So when I look at this picture, wow, there's a lot going on here. And as always, 5 of Coins is a 5 card. It's a change. If you know tarot and you want to go with the traditional meaning, that's perfect, but I like to do everything intuitively. So we know coins are physical, tangible things. And what's interesting is I'm seeing a blending of, so if you think about time, that's like structure, boundaries, Saturn, stuff like that. And then you have the coins, which would be physical, tangible. And then you have the waves, which would be like the emotion. And she really looks preoccupied, like she's not facing front. I feel like there's confusion between where you are and what you're working on calling towards yourself in a manifestation. And it could be anything. It could be a love partner. It could be maybe you want to get pregnant. It could be a job that you really like. It could be getting your business off the ground. But it's like she's stuck kind of like in her head. It's almost like she has all these boxes. So she has all of these things that she's preoccupied with, but she's almost like disassociated. She's like not even paying attention to the task at hand. And underneath, it seems like there's this tumultuous energy. And in between it is I feel like this is spirit coming in to say, I got you. I got you in the physical. I got you in the mind. I got you in the emotional. And I feel like, so she's preoccupied. I honestly feel like this is really just saying, stop worrying. Easier said than done, I realize, but be in the here right now, okay? Just allow yourself to be. Whatever it is that you're calling towards yourself that you feel like is not going to happen, don't give up on it. Maybe allow yourself to forget about it, if that makes sense, because when we forget about it, we're not focused on it and we're releasing that resistance, and things don't flow when there's constriction, right? So lose yourself in time. Maybe find an activity that you really enjoy and just allow yourself to lose time in that moment, right? So it's like maybe you set a 1 hour timer because you have a certain buffer between things that you have to do, and you set a 1 hour timer just so you don't get too off track. And maybe you go outside and you journal, or maybe you go outside and you sit in the sun, or maybe you just go on a walk in nature and you just start paying attention. Like yesterday, we talked about like find three things, like sit in silence in your car instead of listening to music or a podcast and find three things that you wouldn't have seen before, like a woodpecker landing on a tree, a monarch butterfly coming over the rooftop. The things that you wouldn't see if you're just like, if you're disassociating, or if you're just like, oh, I wish I wasn't here right now. If you feel like that, bring yourself back to center and just focus. You're here to take up space. You're here because you're meant to be here. Your purpose in this life is to be exactly who you are. And that's how everything can magnetize to you because you have this like clean shot of energy that's in alignment with your soul or however you want to call it. And I honestly just feel like everything is coming together. It might not seem like it might not look like it, but trust yourself, trust the process, trust spirit, source, energy, God, however you want to call it, and know that you're supported. And just when you feel this resistance, call yourself back to your center. Maybe take 3 deep breaths. I really like to take a deep breath and hold it as long as it feels comfortable and then release because I feel like that melts tension away from my body. And then I can think clearly. I can feel my feelings more clearly and really just be in the present moment because that's now. That's real. Don't think about the past because you're not going that way. And don't worry about the future because, well, you're not there yet. Just be where you are and be grateful for where you are, even if it's just little teeny tiny things that you're grateful for. And then it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Because then you'll start magnetizing more things to you with that positive energy of appreciation. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and I'll see you tomorrow.